Hello, Mark and Simon's Trading Channel. Thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. Happy Wednesday to you all, middle of the week. And let's get straight on with the price action analysis. So, yeah, it's we're in the time of tariffs and they're causing a bit of chaos. But if I'm honest, the price action of Bitcoin's not been affected hugely. It's pretty much been doing what it was before this kind of all kicked off. Now, what I'm going to do is start on lower time frames and work my way up. So here we go. I got the 4 hour, and as you can see, the 4 hour price action is basically in a low volatility environment here, and it's just bounced off the top of the Bollinger Band, bounced off the bottom, and it's trying its best to close back above the midpoint. So if it does that, you would expect another move up probably to about 85.5, 86,000. That then would give Bitcoin the opportunity to do some volatility expansion to the upside. And if it starts to get up towards 90K, then it's got a chance to change the daily downtrend, which I'll show you in a moment. So yeah, we've got a 4 hour uptrend here. That's all negated really if Bitcoin starts to close 4 hour candles back below about 83. And you can see the RSI will drop into the bear zone not too far below there. The momentum pivot on the MACD here is kind of hovering around the zero line, but it's not really close enough for this number to be very specific. But you can see it is technically still to the upside. So I think Bitcoin's got a chance to at least consolidate a bit more up here, somewhere between 83 and 86, call it, on a 4 hour time frame. 4 hour closures above either of those limits would indeed be a volatile move starting, very likely. So that's one to be looking out for on the 4 hour time frame. Now the daily, you can see the daily, yeah, not a great deal has happened really in the last 1, 2, 3, 4 days. In fact, this will be the fifth day, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this will be the fifth day in an extremely boring range if price doesn't make its mind up and do something different. This downtrend is still in existence, and it starts from the current all-time high, and it's worked its way down to the current low. So the current low coming in at that 74, which is basically around tariff time. For that to be negated, really, Bitcoin needs to start closing dailies back above here, because this is this current sort of standing high, if you like, or local high, and that's effectively around 89,000 for a daily closure. So daily closure back above there, so around that 90K point that I mentioned in the 4 hour time frame, would give the trend a chance to change. You can see that momentum's trying to change, getting very close to the zero line here, and 89 being the number that needs to be achieved for the MACD to shift to the upside. So 89, 90,000, that would also shift the daily RSI into the bull zone. You can see that it's around the sort of 89,000 mark. So there's a lot from the point of view of trend and momentum that will pivot or not around that 89, 90,000 mark. Bitcoin needs to close several dailies above there, not just a quick try up there and then turn back down. That's no good. It needs to be closing several days, if not a weekly candle above 90,000 for me to be convinced that this is now no longer a daily downtrend and the etchings of a daily uptrend. So that's the daily and the weekly. So here's the weekly, and I've talked about this, for the last few weeks really, about in the context of the bull run so far, which started way back over here, the end of 2022, when Bitcoin was 15,000, although I wish I could get my hands on some Bitcoin at 15,000 again. Every time there's been a volatile move up, the consolidation that then followed has been literally sideways with a bit of downside. But what there hasn't been has been a volatility expansion to the downside. So no volatility expansion to the downside, no volatility expansion to the downside in a meaningful way. And so far, no volatility expansion to the downside. However, the midpoint of the Bollinger Band for the weekly time frame is currently around 93. And the longer the Bitcoin hangs out below there, in my opinion, and in terms of Bollinger Band volatility, the longer it is closing weekly candles below that pivot of the midpoint, which is the 20 SMA of 93,000. When volatility picks up, it will more likely be moved to the downside. And to be honest, a volatile move to the downside from here, for me, would be likely end of bull run. I still don't think that's the most likely outcome. It doesn't really fit in from a timing point of view, but it's worth referencing the historical moves of the current bull run, and at no point have the consolidation phases had volatility expansion to the downside. Each time has had volatility expansion to the upside. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You can see with regards to the bear zone, which also would signify, probably end of bull run. That's weekly closures below 75 at the moment, which is effectively the current wick low. So we don't want to see any weekly closures back below there. If indeed that did happen, it's likely to be some serious downside. And I wouldn't be surprised for Bitcoin to start hitting figures in the low 50s, maybe even high 40s at that point. And then you're talking many, many months, really, before Bitcoin even starts thinking about making a new all-time high. That's kind of off the menu for a while. But for now, I think this is going to take time. And, bearing in mind now that we're halfway through April, will Bitcoin rip to a new all-time high by the summer? I'm starting to get the feeling that it won't. But if Bitcoin can start closing weeklies back above the mid-90s, then it makes a new all-time high into the second half of the year, way more likely in my opinion. So we'll see. You can see that the MACD has got ever so close to that zero line, just like it did here and just like it did here for these two consolidation moves. And they turned out to be the lowest point of the MACD compared to the zero line before the moves to the upside, both in price and in the MACD movement. So will this bull run continue to give the gains that it has so far to the upside? Only time will tell. But I'm still leaning in that direction. It's just, nervous times when it's hanging around down here. Nervous for everyone. I just wanted to show the perfect test of my weekly bull bear here. So this is another little strategy I have, just using a Gann line. And you can see so far this has kept a visual representation of the bull market, just in a different way. There's a perfect test of it over here, and it looks like there's going to be another perfect test of it from last week's wick low. So for me, that's a key. That is key. Don't want to see any weekly closures below there, because that would likely flip this into what was previous for the last downside move, very much a bear market. So I don't want to see that. But Bitcoin's not there yet, and there's a fair buffer between where the price is at the moment in the mid-80s to where the weekly would have to close in order for that to happen on this trade strategy. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time for another one of my price action analysis videos. Take care. Bye-bye.